Hi, you guys. Welcome back. For those of you who are new, my name is Shannon, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about a prophetic dream. This dream gave me a lot of insight as to what is coming for America, and I want to make some things very clear before I get into the dream, the message, or what can be done about it. Number one, it's this. I do not want to deliver a message and have this message be received in fear. I am a very strong advocate of staying out of fear as much as we can. I know we're living in really uncertain times. I know there's so much going on across the globe. People are waking up left and right to very unsettling truths, and this can trigger so much nervous system activation, so much fear, so much anxiety, and I don't want this to be another video that is stirring that up inside of people. Although it is a bit of a warning, I don't want it to be received from a place of like, oh no, what are we going to do? I am going to share at the end of the message some very tangible things to do to prepare for what's coming. And so I don't want to leave you in a state of unrest internally. I believe that I was given this message so that I could share what is to be done in order to prepare for what is coming into the USA. And so with that being said, I also want to touch on this. I have been doing personal nervous system healing for the last couple years. And more recently, in like the last 6 months or so, I have really honed in on how much social media and just the media in general tends to stir up and trigger fear within people. And if you already have a dysregulated nervous system, this is something that you want to avoid at all costs. And so by stepping away from the news, from social media, from articles, from online videos, from Google, from all of these things, I have really been able to find and harness a sense of peace within myself. And this has been allowing me to do great work in my nervous system. And so I'm fully suggesting that right now, especially with everything that's going on, would be a really great time to do so. And I know a lot of you are thinking, like, how can I just avoid what's going on? If I don't watch these things, I'm not going to be made aware. And I know it feels like that to some degree inside. You have this piece of you that feels like if you don't watch these things, if you don't ingest this information, you are going to be left unprepared. And I get that. But what I have found is that if God really wants us to know something or to see something, it will find its way to us. We don't have to be in a state of hypervigilance or searching or seeking in order to come across this information. What this does is it just feeds our system fear-based material that generally we can't do anything about. Like if you are sitting and you're watching endless hours of what's going on in the war in Iran and you're living here in America, as much as we care about what's going on and as much as we don't want to see people suffer, constantly ingesting material like this is just going to leave us in a state of stress. And what good is it for you to be sitting at home stressing and worrying about something that you literally have absolutely no control over? And so this is where it's really important to surrender these things to God. We have to remember that God is in control and that we do not have to be hypervigilant. It is not up to us to solve all the problems of the world. And so with that being said, I want to get into the message. So the reason why I shared that is I haven't been watching the news. I haven't been really knowing what's going on, like as far as the war, as far as any health issue things, anything that's been coming up. Somebody did send me a message the other day and I clicked on the link, and as I exited out of the video, I pressed the back button. It auto-played a separate video. And so I accidentally stumbled across a video where they were talking about this topic. And so this was sort of by design because I was able to piece my dream together based on this. And so I paid it no attention, shut down my phone, went about my day until I had this dream. And this dream was given to me on the night of May 12th. And I'm going to walk you through the dream, and then I want to decipher the message or sort of lead you through the process of how I uncoded what this meant. And so in the beginning of the dream, I was driving in a car in a very busy place. It was roads. I was unsure of where I was. The neighborhood looked strange, but what I did notice is there were people all over the place, all over in the street, all over, like walking through yards, walking through the road. And as I was driving incredibly slow because I couldn't get through the crowd. My window was down, and a woman looked over at me and she said, "You're going to go to jail." And so immediately this caught me off guard. And I was like, why would I go to jail? I haven't done anything wrong. And she said, well, you're just going to go to jail. And so wanting to like prove my innocence, I remember thinking like, well, that's not fair. Like I didn't do anything. So I want to prove that I didn't do anything. And as I looked over to my right, there just so happened to be this jail or this prison just sitting right there. And so I was like, oh, here's my opportunity. I am going to go in and speak to whoever is in charge, and I'm going to plead my case and let them know I didn't do anything so that I don't get in trouble and I don't get sent to jail. And so as I looked for the door to the jail, it wasn't like a traditional door that you would walk through. It descended underground. So it was like cellar doors. I don't know if you've ever seen like those storm doors or cellar doors that you have to lift up and they open outwardly. The doors looked like that. So the doors opened, and instead of like walking down in, I sort of like jumped down in and descended into this prison. And so as I made it into this jail or prison, the weird thing that I noticed was all of the cell doors were wide open and everybody was just sort of wandering around inside of this place. And so I made it down a hallway and I paused for a moment at the doorway of a cell, and it was a big cell and it had a big long bench. And so I stood there, and as I looked to my right, I saw a man ushering a woman through the crowd. And this woman was pregnant. She had her hand on her belly. And the man who was sort of ushering through this crowd of people, the first thing that I noticed about him was his gentle nature. He was so gentle and caring for this woman. The way he was leading her, he had his hand on her arm and he was gently guiding her to make sure that she was safe and protected in that busy space. And so immediately in my spirit, I knew that this was a good man, a kind man. Like he had a good character about him. And so the two of them walked into the cell gate or the cell that I was looking into, and they sat on the bench next to me. I was standing and they were sitting, and the man looked up at me, and he said, "Everyone better start praying to Saint blank." And I'm only saying blank because he said a name, and it was a name that I had never heard of before. And I looked at him confused because of that. And I was like, what did this man just say? Like, everyone should start praying to a saint. Like, I know that that's more of a Catholic thing, and I'm not Catholic. So it caught me off guard. And I looked at him sort of confused, and I asked him, who is that? And he replied, "It is the saint of dialysis." Now, at the time when he said dialysis, my stomach sank. And so I knew that I was almost like lucid in the dream, to the point to where I was aware that I was dreaming and I was aware of everything that was going on around me, but I was still in the dream. So when he said that, I just remember thinking, like, first of all, like, what is this man saying? But I knew there was complete relevance to the word dialysis. And so that was like the way my body reacted to it when he said that was an indicator that this was like an incredibly important part of the dream. And I, in confusion, was like, what? And right then, I heard my name called. And it was, Shannon, you may come in now. And so that was another thing that threw me off, was I had just started to make it down the hallway. I didn't alert or tell anybody that I was there to be seen or to meet with anybody. But at the end of the hallway were the doors that went into what I'm assuming was like the prison warden's office. And he had called me in by name. And so I left the cell room, made it down the hallway, and went into this office space. And the first thing that I noticed when I came in was the warden, whom I was there to speak with, his physical features. Number one, he had a glow that was emanating from his entire body. So it like surrounded him, like he was giving off a glow. So that was the first thing I noticed. And then when I looked at his face, he was an older man, and he had like white, sort of curly, like puffy hair that was patchy, sort of came like around his sides. And his face had such gentle features. If you don't know who Eckhart Tolle is, he sort of, even in the dream, I remember thinking like that he resembled him in the face. And so he just had very soft features, sort of like a round face. And he was smiling, just the most gentle, beautiful smile. His cheeks were just balled up with like happiness. And he was emanating this peace and joy and happiness from him that was sort of unmatched. It was very intriguing, and it was a very beautiful energy, to say the least. And so I came in and I sat down in the chair in front of his desk, and he was standing at the side of the desk, speaking, like waiting to hear what I had to say. And so I immediately began to try to clear my name. And I just kept saying, like, I didn't do anything wrong. I swear to you. Somebody was saying that I did something, that I was going to go to jail. And I was starting to sort of like rant, trying to like prove my innocence. And the whole time he just sat there smiling at me with such gentleness. And he just kept saying, I know you didn't do anything wrong. And so the way he was speaking to me almost like eased my troubled heart. Like I began to understand that like he knew I didn't have to continue to defend myself. But I mentioned, because I still had the conversation in my mind about, you know, the one that I had with the man in the cell room. And so this man, this warden, this prison warden, I had asked him a question, and he said, there is something coming. And I said, for the world? And he said, it's coming for the U.S. And so then the conversation that I had in the hallway, I was like, but the man, I said, I just spoke with the man in the hallway, and he said something to me about dialysis. And so this warden just said, it's coming for the U.S. And I said, yeah, but because I was confused, like, what does dialysis have to do with this? Warden is now warning me that something is coming. And so I asked him again, I said, yeah, but what about the dialysis? What does that mean? And then I woke up. And so this dream was so profound. When I woke up, I literally, like, the feeling I got from being near that warden was just so beautiful. The way he was smiling at me, his gentleness, the energy that he was giving off. And the only thing I could think of was like he represented like God or some divine figure, because of the glow he was giving off and just the pure love and gentleness. And then the fact that he knew I hadn't done anything wrong, and that I didn't need to defend myself. So I was under the impression immediately upon waking up that this was a divine being, if not like representative of God himself. And so, but the man that was in the cell room, he was also representing a divine person, very wise person. And he was displaying his gentleness and his care by guiding and leading this pregnant woman. He was like protecting her and guarding her. And so his nature to me was the first thing that stood out, was his, just his character. He was so protective of her and so gentle and loving. And so his character stood out to me before he ever said a word. And so these two characters were obviously the most relevant. But I was a bit disturbed because when he had mentioned dialysis, my stomach sank. And then I began to wonder, is this a warning for me or somebody that I know about maybe like a blood sugar issue, or because I've received dreams like that in the past. But that didn't make sense either. The fact that the warden kept saying that something was coming to America, sort of squashed the idea that it was just for one person or, for myself or maybe somebody that I knew. And so this dream, like I woke up and I sat there and I immediately started praying about it. Like, what could this possibly mean? And the only thing I could think of, the only thing that my mind kept going back to was, remember when I told you that I don't watch social media videos, I don't watch any media, I don't keep up on any of that. And so someone had sent me a message, and when I pressed back, it auto-played a separate video. So a few days before I had the dream, I had accidentally stumbled across a video, and it was talking about a new virus that was like on a cruise ship or something. But this video was implying that this was like a cover-up for something that was going on a cruise ship, a Disney cruise ship. So it was like a false flag sort of thing. So the only thing I could think of was that, like, maybe it had something to do with this cruise ship virus, which I hadn't heard anything else about. So I just got this like strong urge to do some digging. And as I started Googling about, number one, like, what is the name of this virus? And so once I found the name, then I started digging into the symptoms of this virus. And I think it's called like the hantavirus or I'm not 100% sure, but it was saying that for the most part, it's a upper respiratory virus, and that it can cause your lungs to fill with fluid, and that it's supposedly highly deadly and very dangerous. So I had not heard anything about this virus, haven't indulged in any information about it. But so at first I was like, well, that doesn't sound related, so maybe it's something else. But then as I continued to read on a different website, I think it was the World Health Organization website, further down, it said that there were other variations of this virus that are found in different places in the world. And what it does is it causes renal damage, so kidney damage, kidney failure. And so people would have to go on dialysis to cleanse the blood of this virus, whatever damage this virus was doing. And immediately it was like, ding, light bulb, like that's what it was. And so it was complete confirmation. Like, it settled in my spirit so well that this dream was a warning about this virus, whatever this virus is. That there's not just one variation of it. There's not just one set of symptoms. There's a second variation that has to do with kidney issues. And so that's why in the dream he was specifically saying dialysis. So all the puzzle pieces began to fall into place. So apparently this virus is going to be making its way to the U.S. and people are going to be suffering kidney issues and needing dialysis in order to deal with this virus. So I'm not sharing this to scare anybody, because being in fear is the last thing that we need to be. I believe that the most important thing is to have awareness. So if you come across this video, to be aware that yes, there is something coming in, and this may trigger, kidney issues in people, as well as, the lung issues. But I don't believe that God warns us of these things without giving us something that we can do about it. So the next part of the video, I want to share tangible information, something that you can do to prepare for what's coming. Number one, I would say now is a really great time for people to start making food changes, diet changes, starting to eat healthier. What we eat impacts our body to a great degree. And our kidneys and our liver are responsible for clearing toxins out of our body. And so if you think about it this way, if we're facing something that could potentially cause strain on our kidneys, a good way to prevent damage in this area, I guess, would be to support your kidneys, to support your body as a whole. Everything has changed since COVID. And I feel like that was a really big shock for the world. But that's not the last virus that's going to be released and making its rounds. So any of these new ones that are popping up and, being released in different areas, and we have to take precaution in the sense of preparing our bodies. We have to just have the awareness that this is something that's going to continue for some time. And really our only defense against it is to support our physical vessel to be able to withstand whatever is headed our way. Eating lots of fruits and vegetables and making that your main part of your diet really puts your body into a detox mode. It takes the weight off of your liver and your kidneys. It gives those organs a break. And so eating nutrient dense, especially raw, organic fruits and vegetables is very important to taking that burden out of our body. Another way to support our bodies is to eat foods that are high in antioxidants. So again, fruits and vegetables, but also taking herbs. And I was just reading how healthy spirulina is for you, algae, seaweed, being really careful with what you're ingesting outside of food, such as alcohol, drugs, anything that's going to put strain on your body. So outside of those things, obviously exercise, treating your body like a temple, because it is. We were given these wonderful bodies to help us navigate the earth. Without them, we're just a spirit. And so being a spirit, having a physical vessel is incredibly important. So our vessel is a temple for our spirit, for our life force energy, and supporting it and treating it kindly is key. So exercise, getting out into nature, drinking a ton of water, drinking things like coconut water. I've been absolutely addicted to drinking that as of late. Doing cleanses and detoxes, juice fasting, or even fasting in general. I feel like here in America, there's a lot of information coming in about, really learning how to make these changes. And it's become more of a popular trending thing. And so I feel like people are jumping on the bandwagon and learning how, the importance of taking care of our bodies right now, which is a wonderful thing. And so just continuing to embrace those changes, getting away from meat, getting away from dairy, anything that's processed and made, factory made, growing our own food, connecting with nature, grounding, meditation, prayer, surrendering to God, developing better spiritual hygiene, alleviating stress to the best of your ability. That's a big one I want to talk about right now, actually, because stress is linked to nervous system dysregulation. I know all about nervous system dysregulation. When you are dysregulated, your body is in a state of fight or flight. When you are in fight or flight, you are being pumped with cortisol, adrenaline, hormones that are disrupting your system, and your body is no longer in a state of being able to heal. There is no rest and digest. It is survival. And when you are in survival mode, all of the other functions of your body sort of shut down, all the unnecessary things. And then your liver and your kidneys and your lymphatic system is responsible for clearing all of these stress hormones, which it really, really, really puts a toll on your organs, on your entire system. And so learning how to manage stress, learning how to deal with your past trauma, learning how to cleanse the body and to create an environment around you of peace, of love, of compassion, of healing is so incredibly important. And so to avoid these viruses and to really give yourself the best fighting chance you have at not becoming ill, or at the very least, having a strong immune system that can fight these things, is to support your internal terrain, to do the detoxing, to do the fasting, to support your vessel in every way that you possibly can. And then one of the most important keys is to really manage your stress. If you can carve out 20 minutes out of your day to be in gratitude, to feel feelings of love and unity and compassion, and to avoid fear and anger and, stress and anxiety. And so in the beginning of the video, when I said staying away from the media, do a social media fast, take some time out to be with yourself, really pour love into you, exercise, eat healthy foods, nurture good, healthy relationships, and stay away from the ones that are depleting you. Now is the time to make the shift. I feel like these viruses are sort of forcing us into a place of having to make the necessary changes for all of us to collectively move forward in a good direction, in a unified direction. And so whether we like it or not, we're being put in a position to have to make these necessary changes within our personal lives. And if I strongly believe that if enough of us do this collectively, that we are going to come out the other side better, stronger, healthier, and just more unified. So don't take this message with fear. Don't look at it as, oh no, doom, gloom, we're all screwed, like something horrible is coming and God is warning us. And, this message is not to be taken in that way. I'm not going to deliver this. I don't even want to call it a warning, because it's not so much a warning. It's more of a heads up. It's not a scary thing. It's more of a, hey, now is a good time to implement these changes. So let's do that before this thing comes into the US. Let's detox the body. Let's support one another, and let's be prepared. God doesn't like to leave us unprepared for what is to come. And so these warnings aren't meant to put us into a state of fear, of anxiety, but of preparation and wisdom. So I love you guys. I hope you stay blessed, and I'll be back soon.